This may seem like an unusual topic to approach, but it's one that I think is so very important for us to understand. In speaking to a client the other day, one of the fears or confusions she had was in looking at something she hadn't considered or thought about in a very long time. She's a married woman with a number of children and is now out there working and very successful at what she's doing, and an amazingly beautiful woman with great intelligence. One of the questions that came up to her that we were discussing in our session was, what do you do when your value system says, I'm a married woman, I love my husband and I love my life, and yet I am so drawn to this other person. I am so drawn to who he is, the energy he brings, to his vibrancy, his aliveness, his joy of life, that I get so excited every time I think that I'm going to be in a meeting with him, that I'm going to see him, I'm going to do something, that I don't know what to do with this. The fear that was coming up, the uncertainty, the confusion, the excitement to see him, and yet the discomfort in being excited about seeing him. And what happens with this? What are affairs about? What are these desires to do something that's outside your comfort zone that you know is a choice you can't take back once you make it? What happens with that? So many of the people I have worked with over the years who have been in business, who have been very successful at what they're doing, leaders of organizations, leaders of groups that may be their own companies, that are confronted with questions around affairs, around attraction to somebody else, who don't know where to go or what to do because it's not something they expected or was looking for. One of the ways we worked with it, one of the things we talked about was, what if what she was really attracted to was this younger man who was so full of life and vibrancy, a life and vibrancy that she feels she's lost touch with, having been so busy in corporate, being so busy as a mom, so busy leading her life, so busy going on and getting more educated and more informed about her subject matter, about what her specialty is. What if there is so much pressure on us, so much burden and expectation that we place on ourselves as much as others place on us, that when you meet somebody who reminds you what it feels like to be alive, who reminds you what it feels like to be vibrant, to be carefree, somebody who seems to be living a life that does not have the level of responsibility you do, that does not have the level of commitment that you do. This individual was single and he just was happy and joyful and living his life and just going about doing what he does and doing it well. And yet the energy was so dramatically different. When I asked her if he reminded her of an energy she had long ago, before she had kids, before she was married, before she was so advanced in her career. And she stopped and thought about it and said, I've never had that experience of freedom that he seems to have. I've never had that experience of joie de vivre, of life, of just being so vibrantly alive the way he has it. So it isn't even missing where she used to be. It's craving something she's never had. So was the sexual attraction really about an affair? Was it really about betraying who she is? She could have had that affair, gotten away with it, if you will, but it'd be something she'd be living with for the rest of her life. Something that would come back, who knows when, at different times, to say, this is what I've done. This is what I brought into my marriage. This is a secret I'll always have within my marriage. This is something that caused me to go against who I really am. And that, years later, months later, you can say, I regret having made that choice. That happens when we look at these attractions as something that's purely physical. It's about intercourse, it's about seduction, it's about sex. When in fact, what it's really about is sexual energy. Sexual energy is a vibrancy, it's an aliveness, it's creation. It isn't just creating children, it's creating your passion. What about creativity in the arts? Sexuality, when you're feeling it, when you're attracted to somebody, you feel a vibrancy, you feel an aliveness, you feel it, a joy, an excitement. What if you brought that creative energy into what creative aspect can you bring into your project? What creative aspect can you bring into your life at this point? What creative element is missing in your life? What vibrancy have you lost touch with? Have you become so connected to responsibility, to burden, to being a leader, to running an organization, to running a home? Have you become so involved in responsibility and expectation that you got lost? Have you become so invested in doing it right that simply living and being alive, appreciating, being thankful for the gift of the journey, being thankful for the gift of being here, that vibrancy, that creativity that comes when you step out of whatever box you've placed yourself in, when you step out of whatever self-image you've adapted. And what if you went back or reclaimed, perhaps for the first time, the vibrant, alive, passionate person that exists in every one of us? We all have life force energy. We all have this creative energy. We all have a desire to become more, to do more, to be more. What if our sexual attraction to somebody or something was really a call to our own vibrancy? It isn't necessarily a call to hide. It isn't a call to do something that goes against our own integrity, that goes against who we are. What if that attraction is a call to awaken to yourself, to awaken to a part of you that you have lost touch with? Then that person, whoever that is, that alivens that in you, that awakens that in you, that person is such a gift passing through your life to remind you of who you're capable of becoming. And it isn't about the sex, it's about the vibrancy, the life force, the desire to jump into living life far more fully than you're doing it now. Take a look, see if perhaps what you're really being called to is to come alive. If what you're being reminded of is a self you may have been or may have never been, but wanted to become, but didn't have permission. Perhaps now you're at a point in your life where there's more a sense of who you are. You're more defined in your values. You're more defined in who you want to be. That now you have permission to reclaim or to claim for the first time that additional part of you. That now, as a grounded, powerful person, aware of who you are and just beginning to understand what you're capable of, that now that vibrancy becomes that addition you lost, that you bring in, that feeds who you're becoming and makes you even so much more of who you really are. Rather than fighting that desire, rather than fighting this impulse, what if you understood it from a completely different perspective, as rather than being a call to something that goes against your principles, that goes against your values? What if it's a call back to you, and not back to a connection to somebody else, but back to a connection to who you are? Somebody reminded you what it feels like to feel alive, to feel vibrant. And when you keep putting that on them, as if they're the ones that made that happen, that this is all about them, you've misread the situation. Maybe it's all about you. And they simply gave you permission to be you, completely and fully you. I say go for that. Go for that opportunity to come alive. Go for that opportunity to remember and reclaim a part of you that you most likely have lost touch with, and bring it back into your life and into your marriage if you have one. Bring it back into who you are and what a gift they were to remind you of a part of you that you absolutely forgot. Have a great day.